It's one of those big and often unexpected expenses.
People spend a lot of money on their cars. My partner tried to fix vehicles and it's ended up being very, very expensive.
But if we need our car to get somewhere, we either have to fix it ourselves
I usually do my own servicing on the car.
or pay someone else to do it.
I'd go straight to a mechanic for that.
I guess I try and budget for that, knowing that that's coming up.
So how can we get away with spending less on our cars? Kia ora, I'm Katy Gosset and welcome to Thrift. There's a great saying by the writer Tom Robbins, or one of his characters. He says, there's birth, there's death, and in between there's maintenance. Now, my car is not new, so I didn't get a look in at the birth. I'm really hoping it's not going to die anytime soon. But I can do something about the in-between years. Maybe I can help ward off a midlife crisis.
Hey, how are you?
Hi.
Hey, Grant.
Katy, nice to meet you.
So, what we'll do, we'll get out and I'll just find a bit of a quiet space for it.
That's Grant Waters. He's the Southern Franchise Manager for the Automobile Association. Before that, he ran the vehicle testing workshops for the Southern region, and before that, he was a mechanic. So he's a good person to talk us through car maintenance, using my car as a guinea pig. Now, we don't like to talk too much about brands on Thrift, but I can tell you that my car is a 2010 Japanese four-wheel drive automatic, and it's done just under 140,000 kilometres. Here we are looking under the bonnet, which I do very infrequently, and I'll say it before you say it, there are a bunch of leaves inside the car, under the bonnet. Is that common?
It's very common, so I wouldn't stress about that one. That's totally cool. No dramas at all.
A bit of an inauspicious start, but our first tip is to identify the things that need to be done, whether you do them yourself or get a mechanic to do them. These are the things that will keep your car on the road and save you money. And first on that list,
I would definitely get your car serviced, absolutely.
so it's tempting to think, the car's going okay, do I really need a service? Actually, yes you do.
When we see significant motor issues or failures, it's generally because people haven't serviced them.
And this is not just people who've left it for a year or two. Sometimes it's up to 5 years with no oil or filter. And this is what happens.
It's well off the dipstick, almost no oil anymore because it's literally turned almost like rock inside there. So what that does is it creates internal engine issues, generally leads to a failure.
And to a big fat bill.
That's where you are going to be up in your $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 bills very, very easily.
Consider yourself warned. Now this might sound obvious to a lot of people, but when we talk about a service, in inverted commas, what should that cover?
They'll check the brake fluids, they'll check transmission levels,
They replace the engine oil and filter,
and then they check drive belts, accessory belts, and another form of mechanical inspection under the car.
and then there's the brakes and tyres.
So it's more than just an oil and filter, but it's something that we would strongly recommend that you do.
So that one's a no-brainer. If we want to trim costs, we need to find something else to ditch.
A lot of other accessories on the vehicle you can go without, so if your air conditioning's not working, you can live without that. That's not going to stop your vehicle from operating. If your engine has a mechanical failure, you're not going anywhere.
So let's look at those things that need to be done and break them down into what you can do and what's best done by a professional. So tip 2 covers this stuff under the bonnet.
These are a real simple check anyone can do at home.
We're starting with the radiator cooling tank.
So on the side you'll see a minimum and a full mark. So your coolant wants to be between those two levels.
So what's mine doing then?
Yours is right at the top of the full mark. Nice pinky colour is exactly where you'd want it.
As the name suggests, the cooling system keeps the car temperature down, but that can change if the system gets blocked or the coolant fluid is low and leaking. If it is low, you can absolutely top it up yourself, but make sure you check your manual or online for the right coolant to use, because different motors have different metal compounds in them.
Some have a lot more alloy or aluminium than others. So if the coolant was too corrosive, it would actually start eating into the aluminium itself, which would potentially cause significant engine damage in the future.
Remember, whenever you get near your radiator, be super careful. If the car's been running, it will be hot. So make sure you give it a while before you take your cap off.
Once it's cooled down, you simply remove the cap, fill it up to the full mark. Job done.
You can buy the coolant at car accessory shops and it'll probably cost you about $15 or $20 a litre, and that's likely all you'll need just for the top-ups. Grant recommends checking the coolant when the seasons change. If you have an older car, the cooling tank would be filled up through the radiator. And why are you doing that?
Check your radiator cooling hoses. Looking for anything that's soft, cracked, pierced, because if that does blow while you're out driving, you're potentially likely for significant cost to get a motor replaced.
You should also get a full coolant change every 2 years or every 60,000 kilometres. And that's more of a job for the workshop. Now, as we heard earlier, I'm not the only person with dried leaves under my bonnet. So chances are more than a few of us are a bit intimidated by what's under here.
When you open the bonnet, it's a bit scary. There's lots of things under there.
But as we're learning, there are some simple checks. And fun fact, under the bonnet, there's also a type of colour coding, which I never knew about.
When you find something that's generally yellow, so like your dipstick and that's yellow, that's normally items that you can do yourself.
That yellow dipstick is for my oil, and most of us have had a crack at checking the oil at some point.
Oil changes, sort of simple things like that I can do myself.
There's YouTube videos for oil changes.
If you have the time, it's usually faster to do it yourself.
But again, before you check, make sure the car's been turned off for 10 or 15 minutes.
Make sure that oil settles to the bottom of the engine. So if you pull out the dipstick, there'll be two marks. There'll be a minimum and a maximum. You want to make sure that oil level is between the two.
If it's too low, same deal as the coolant. Check your manual or check online to get the right oil and the right viscosity or thickness for your car. Just add a little at a time until the level rises. Again, like the coolant, you'll need a full oil change at some point. And Grant reckons for that, you're better to take your car to a workshop.
The technician will lift it up in the air. They would then drain the oil from the bottom and they'll replace the filter as well. Now, here on your particular vehicle, you can't even see the filter, so that's not something that you'd be doing at home very easily.
The filter takes any impurities out of the oil, so that's not a job to skimp on. But regular checks can ward off expensive problems, so Grant's recommending an oil and filter every 10,000 kilometres. And don't leave it longer than a year, as the oil breaks down over time.
If it breaks down, it's not going to provide adequate lubrication, etc. for your motor. So again, it's something to prevent any long-term damage to your vehicle.
So while we're talking do's and don'ts under the bonnet, a brief note about the transmission. Again, really specific about the fluid you use. In fact, this is one that Grant puts into the don't try this at home category. And finally, under the bonnet, yes, it's the battery. Hands up if you've called the AA out because you had a dead battery. Yep, you and me and lots of other people.
The number one call out is for battery related problems.
And it's usually because someone's left the lights on.
I'd recommend just go around and just make sure inside your car you've turned off all the accessory lights.
So how long does a battery last? There are a few variables, but the average lifespan is between 4 and 6 years. If you look at your battery, you can actually see how it's tracking.
There's a couple of wee sight glasses there. Green means it's okay, black's right on the borderline, and white will be no good.
Unfortunately, in my case,
if you look down inside there, it is still green, but it's also a fair bit of black around it.
Pretty murky, isn't it?
Yeah, just a heads up that your one might be due soon.
in the meantime, I can try and prolong its life. Cars don't really like short stop-start trips around town. Obviously, we have to do them sometimes. But what a car really likes is a roadie.
Because what that does is your alternator, which is down over here on the side of the motor, constantly charges up that battery. So long running, if you're going here to Timaru, for example, it would love that.
And of course, a roadie is also good for us and the soul. Chucking a bit of music on and going for a blat. But before you take off, tip 3 covers a few important things that aren't under the bonnet and that can save you money.
You spent a worrying amount of time poking at the tread on my tyre there.
No, all we were doing there was just getting it ready just to show you on the tyre. So if you look right in between that groove there, there's a little wee indicator.
It's a tread depth indicator.
The legal requirement in New Zealand for any tyre is 1.5 mil. So you're well over that, so you've probably got about 6 or 7 mil on your tyre.
Which is a relief, because to get a new set of tyres, I'd be looking at least $300.
But if your tyre was to get down to that minimum wear indicator, then it would be throwaway.
There are things you can do to look after your tyres. For example, if you've got a front-wheel drive vehicle,
It's going to wear the front tyres faster than the rear, so my way of prolonging is just to rotate them.
and the type of wear can tell you something about the nature of the problem.
Bulging, uneven wear across the tyre there could indicate that you've got a wheel alignment issue. a suspension issue.
The other thing is how much air is in those tyres. I can't really remember the last time I looked, but others, as it turns out, are more diligent.
So make sure that the tyres are always have the right amount of air in them.
Yeah, definitely keeping the tyres pumped up.
The right tyre pressure for your car can usually be found on the inside sill of one of your doors.
So here's your one here. It's meant to be at 220 kPi.
There are different units of pressure, but when you use a pump at your local service station, you can enter the correct tyre pressure for your car using either a manual or automated gauge. And don't forget to check your spare. And it's not just the air pressure, it pays to have the right tyres for the right situation.
When you have a full drive type vehicle with big chunky tyres, obviously that creates more drag on the road, so you use more fuel.
And the same with other things that create drag, like roof racks, kayak racks. We have a roof box which we took off to reduce drag, but it turns out my roof rack itself is still a problem.
It all adds up, so the vehicle's designed to be slippery through the air to create less drag. You've then got to put something a couple inches above the roof, which is acting as a bit of a windbreak.
Grant says it's important to think about whether you're driving the right car for your needs. Do you need a roof rack? Is your car the right size for you, or could you get something smaller and more economical? And speaking of economical, it's not just the size of the car, but the way you drive that could save fuel and money.
Maintain good following distances, so you're not having to stop-start.
Yep, when the rubber hits the road, what we do behind the wheel plays a role.
When you take off from like intersections or traffic lights, don't accelerate hard, just ease onto the accelerator, because the harder you put your foot down, the more fuel it's going to use. And potentially you're not going to get any further because there's already a car in front of you.
You sound like a man after my partner's own heart. When it comes to my driving.
And if you do suck through a bit of gas, Grant recommends checking out fuel apps, which load all the local fuel prices into one place and compare them.
Gatsby is probably the largest one at the moment. Even here and then, fuel companies have pretty good discounts on there, so I strongly recommend hopping on there and save yourself a few dollars.
And if your car's going to be off the road for a few months for whatever reason, Grant has another money-saving suggestion.
Whether you're going to be overseas or it's mechanically off the road, I strongly recommend that you put the vehicle registration on hold.
My reg costs me just over $100 a year, but you can do it for a minimum of 3 months or up to 12 months. Just don't forget about it. Make sure you re-register before the year is up so your car doesn't have to go through re-compliance. So a quick recap. When it comes to keeping your car on the road, maintenance is absolutely your friend. You can check and top up your own coolant and oil, making sure you use the right fluid and get a mechanic to do the regular full changes. Likewise, keep an eye on your tyres for cracks and bulges and keep them pumped up. Take your car on a few long trips to keep the battery in good health, and if you're heavy-footed, like me, lift your pedal just a little and drive carefully to conserve fuel. Next time on Thrift, easy, low-maintenance food production in your own backyard. Have you heard of hugel culture? We'll see it and other techniques at work in a self-sustaining garden that produces all year round and costs next to nothing. To check out that episode and others, make sure you follow and listen to us on your favourite podcast app. Special thanks to my guest in this ep, Grant Waters from the AA. This podcast was produced and presented by me, Katy Gosset. It was mixed by Alex Harmer, and Tim Watkin is the executive producer of podcasts and series. If you have a tip to share, you can email thrift@rnz.co.nz. Thanks for joining us. Ka kite.